I still remember the look on my mom's face when I told her I'd bought a house. It wasn't surprise. It wasn't pride. It was that tight little smile she used when she didn't know what to say, but didn't really care either. "That's a lot to handle," she said, like I'd adopted a pit bull or taken in a hitchhiker. My dad didn't even look up from the kitchen table, just muttered, "You sure your job can cover that long term?" Troy was in the background, eating a sandwich like he owned the place. He laughed with his mouth half full and said, "This'll crash and burn. Watch. My name's Jake Ellison. I'm 26. I live in a quiet neighborhood just outside Dayton, Ohio. Before we start, how's your day going and where are you joining from?" I'd saved for years, no vacations, no new car, skipped happy hours and wore the same 2 jackets through 3 winters, all for a shot at something mine. Nothing fancy. Just a 2-bedroom with a backyard and a roof that didn't leak. I put in the offer solo, closed solo, moved solo. My realtor gave me the keys and said, "You should be proud," so I called my parents. I don't know why I expected anything different. I guess I wanted to hear a little pride in their voices. Maybe some surprise. Maybe just a congrats. Instead, I got questions, doubt, concern. "How long's your commute now?" "Utilities'll kill you in the winter." "You checked the water heater? Those things fail." Then Mom passed the phone to Dad, who passed it to Troy, who didn't even say hello. Just laughed and said, "Better make sure the porch don't collapse while you sleep." Click. I sat in my empty living room, no furniture, just me, some pizza on the floor, and a crate with my router blinking like it was trying to cheer me on. I was used to it, really. Growing up, I was the quiet one, the one who followed rules, got good grades, kept his head down. They called it being soft. Troy barely scraped through high school and still got a damn backyard party with balloons and ribs and cake. 3 years later, I gave a valedictorian speech in front of 2,000 people, and my mom said, "Nice job" on the car ride home, while Dad asked Troy how his landscaping gig was going. I'd been invisible for so long, I learned to stop asking for attention. But that night, with no one around, I stood up in the middle of the room and looked around at the space I'd fought to earn. My fingers brushed against the doorframe, just to feel something solid. Then I walked outside and locked it behind me. Let them doubt me. I had the keys. I didn't bring up the house anymore. But somehow, someone else always did. Thanksgiving, 2 years after I moved in, Aunt Linda asked across the table, "Still hanging onto that mortgage, Jake?" Like it was a failing relationship. Troy didn't even wait for me to answer. "Man's married to a 30-year loan," he said, chuckling, then leaned over and asked Mom for $20 for gas. She gave it to him, smiling like he'd just won a damn scholarship. I just poured more gravy and kept my mouth shut. That was the pattern for a while. I'd show up to holiday dinners out of obligation, sit through the passive-aggressive jabs, then drive back to my own place where no one questioned if I could afford my own light bill. I had full benefits, a reliable paycheck, my bills were on auto pay, and the house was still mine. I was doing everything right, but somehow still felt like the family loser. Troy? He was always between opportunities. That's what they called it. He'd quit one warehouse job, get fired from a delivery gig, crash at a new girlfriend's place, then circle back to our parents' house when things went south. But no matter what happened, it was always, "He just needs time," or "He's figuring it out." Once I made the mistake of mentioning that I was up for a promotion, just casually during dessert. Dad blinked and said, "You ever think about renting instead of owning? Gives you more flexibility to move up." I stared at him. "I own my house, Dad." "Right, but renting makes it easier if something better comes along." It didn't matter that I'd locked in a great mortgage rate, that I had equity, or that I'd built something from scratch without asking them for a dime. It didn't fit the story they had in their heads. Troy the wild spirit, Jake the rigid one. After a while, I stopped sharing. Less updates, fewer calls. I'd show up late to Christmas, leave early. At one point, I skipped Easter altogether. Nobody asked why. When I did call, conversations felt like check-ins, like I was clocking in for a role I didn't apply for. "How's work?" "Good." "You seeing anyone?" "Nope." "Still at that house?" "Yep." That was it. Surface level stuff, nothing real. If I tried to go deeper, like talk about the security system I upgraded, or how I refinanced to a better rate, eyes glazed over, or someone changed the subject. Troy, meanwhile, came to dinner, once smelling like weed, and still got a warm plate and a seat next to Mom. One Sunday we were all out back for a cookout. Dad grilled while Troy told a story about getting into a business opportunity with a buddy who knew crypto. He made it sound big, like they were 2 months away from launching something revolutionary. He paused, looked over at me, and said, "You should sell the house, man. Put that money into something real." I laughed once. Not because it was funny, because it was pathetic. Mom looked up from her plate and said, "He might have a point. A house can tie you down." I stared at the grill smoke, thinking about how many hours I'd worked, how many cold winters I'd gone without new boots just to afford that house. My fingers tightened around the edge of the picnic table, but I didn't say a word. What was the point? That night, I drove home in silence. Got to my driveway, turned off the engine, and just sat there. Lights off, no music, just me, the dark, and the one place in the world I didn't have to explain myself. Inside, everything was where I left it, tidy, clean, stable, and empty. The house stayed quiet. No knocks, no calls, no drama. That's exactly how I liked it. So when the State Department offered me a 6-month contract overseas, I didn't hesitate. Administrative logistics, paperwork, secure data transfers, all the boring but high-clearance stuff. It wasn't glamorous, but it paid well, and it meant I could stack some real money for once. I took the offer, no second guessing. Before I left, I prepped the hell out of the house. Paid utilities 6 months ahead, changed the HVAC filters, cleaned out the gutters, hired a local lawn service to swing by twice a month and keep it looking lived in, installed new deadbolts, reinforced the back door, upgraded the cameras. It was locked down tight. I gave my parents one spare key. One. Strictly for emergencies, I told them. Like if a tree falls through the roof or something. Not for checking the mail, not for letting Troy crash on the couch. Dad nodded like he got it. Mom said, "Of course." But Troy was standing off to the side, smirking. "You're acting like you're guarding Fort Knox," he said. I looked straight at him. "That's the idea." He shrugged. "Whatever, man. You sure you're not biting off more than you can chew?" I didn't answer. Just zipped my duffel and walked out the door. The job was demanding, fast-paced. Early mornings, long nights. I worked under people who didn't care where you came from, just if you hit deadlines and didn't screw up protocol. I liked that. Communication with home was minimal. I'd send quick updates now and then, mostly out of obligation. I got short replies. "All good. House looks fine. Don't worry about anything." I stopped asking questions. I had work to do. 5th month in, I was in a secure zone helping with a high-volume data transfer when my supervisor pulled me aside. "Jake, I need a word. Something came across the system tied to your name." My stomach dropped. "What kind of something?" "There's a flagged real estate transaction connected to your address. A sale." "No way," I said. "That's not possible." He handed me a printout, black and white, federal seal stamped on the corner. My name, my address. And a line that said, "Property transfer filed. Status. Closed." I stared at it, not even blinking. "Sir," I said slowly, "I never authorized a sale. I've never even listed the house." He looked at me hard. "You sure no one back home had access?" "Only my parents, and even then, only for emergencies." "We're escalating it," he said. "You'll be looped into the investigation before your contract ends. In the meantime, don't mention this to anyone, not yet." I nodded, jaw tight. My heart was beating in my ears, but my face stayed still. Back in the dorms that night, I didn't sleep. I kept going over everything, my keys, the cameras, the bills, the one damn spare I left behind. Nothing made sense. I pulled up my bank app. Mortgage payments had cleared every month. Utilities were fine. No missed alerts, no red flags. But someone had filed paperwork to sell the house, in my name, and it got approved. The system was airtight, or so I thought. 6 months of grinding, 6 months of trusting that everything was locked down, and someone back home found a way in. I didn't have proof yet, but I had a very good guess. I landed on a Tuesday and didn't even stop to unpack. Just grabbed my duffel from the carousel, hit the rental counter, and drove straight to my place. 6 months gone, and all I wanted was to walk into my living room, drop the bag, and breathe in my own air. But my key didn't work. I stood there on the porch, sweat clinging to the back of my neck, jiggling the lock like maybe I was just rusty. Then I saw it, the lockbox hanging from the knob and a bright red "sold" sign in the yard. My throat went dry. I scanned the sign, found the agent's number, and called it. A woman picked up right away, chipper like it was a great day to ruin someone's life. "Oh, hi, you must be the brother. Troy said you'd call." I froze. "Troy doesn't own that house," I said slowly. "I do." She hesitated, just long enough to sound unsure. "Well, he showed us paperwork, power of attorney, said you'd been MIA and let him handle it. Everything looked official." I didn't argue, just hung up. My hands were shaking as I called my parents. Mom picked up. I didn't even get a hello before I heard silverware clinking in the background and Troy laughing. "Hey, honey, we're just sitting down to eat," she said. "What's going on with my house?" I asked flat. She paused. Then, like she'd been rehearsing it, she said, "Troy helped you out of a tight spot. You were 3 months behind. He saved your credit." My heart felt like it stopped. "What?" "He stepped up, Jake. We're proud of him." I didn't respond. I just said, "What's the name of the buyers?" She asked Troy, who shouted something back. "David and Melissa Parker," she said. I hung up. Didn't say goodbye. Didn't curse. Just turned the car around and drove straight to their house. Every mile felt like a fuse burning down. I pulled into their driveway and didn't even wait to knock. Just walked up and opened the door. Still had the garage code memorized. I pulled out my phone and opened my email. The buyer's name, the agent's number, every document. I'd already forwarded everything to my contact at the department. Troy didn't even look nervous. That's when my phone buzzed. Secure message. One line, report filed, FBI request in progress. Come in ASAP. I looked up. "What's the address they moved to?" "The Parkers, somewhere in Huber Heights," Mom said slowly. I drove straight back to my parents' house. My hands were locked on the wheels so tight my knuckles went white. The sky had that dull gray color that matched my mood. Flat, cold, no light in it. When I walked in, I didn't have to guess what kind of night they were having. Balloons still floating, cake half eaten, a banner taped across the living room wall. "Smart move, Troy." He was sitting on the couch like a celebrity giving an interview, telling the family how he rescued me from drowning in debt. Mom was eating it up. Dad nodded along. My aunt even said, "That boy's got a good head for business." I stepped forward and dropped my phone on the coffee table. "Let's hear the story," I said. My voice came out calm. Too calm. "Explain to me how you sold a house that wasn't yours." Troy leaned back, trying to play cool. "You're welcome, first of all. I took care of a problem for you." I sat down across from him. "Show me." He smirked, pulled out a thick folder like he'd been waiting for this moment. "Right here," he said. "Power of attorney, signed before you left. You don't remember?" I looked him dead in the eye. "No, I never signed that." "You were stressed," he said, flipping through pages like he was proud of them. "Said it was for emergencies. I handled it." The room buzzed with murmurs. Everyone was nodding, like this made perfect sense. Like it was completely normal to forge your brother's name and sell his property while he was on a federal assignment. "How'd you even find a buyer?" I asked. "Craigslist," he said. "Young couple, nice people, paid $280, all cash." My jaw tightened. "And what did you do with the money?" He smiled. "Took care of a few things, paid off your debts." "You should be thanking me, man. I saved your credit." I stared at him until he finally looked away. "You said $280, right?" He nodded. "Yep." "Buyers' names?" "David and Melissa something," he said. "Why?" Before I could answer, my phone lit up again. Unknown number. I answered on speaker. "Mr. Ellison, this is Ben Travers, the attorney representing David and Melissa Parker. We need to talk." Everyone went silent. "What's going on?" I asked. "They just raided our office," he said, panicked. "Federal agents are seizing the sale files. They said there's an investigation into property fraud linked to your address. I don't understand. Why would the FBI be involved in a home sale?" I leaned forward, elbows on my knees. "Because the sale was illegal," I said clearly. "The house was flagged for federal monitoring. My brother forged documents, committed wire fraud, and sold property that wasn't his to sell." The lawyer went dead quiet. "You're serious?" "Dead serious," I said. "Tell your clients to cooperate. They'll be fine. He won't." I hung up. Troy's face went pale. "You called the feds on me?" I looked at him. "They called me. You set this in motion." Dad finally spoke, voice cracking. "Jake, slow down. There has to be some misunderstanding." "There's not," I said. "The FBI just confirmed everything." Mom covered her mouth. Troy, tell me you didn't. He shot up from the couch, voice rising. I helped him. He was gone. He left the place sitting there. What was I supposed to do? Let it rot? I stood too, meeting him eye to eye. You were supposed to leave it alone. He laughed, but it came out shaky. You think they'll actually charge me over paperwork? Forgery, fraud, false representation on a federal property. They won't just charge you, they'll bury you. The room fell into silence so thick I could hear the clock ticking in the kitchen. Troy's smirk cracked for the first time. I was trying to fix things, he said quietly. No, I said, grabbing my phone and walking toward the door. You were trying to prove you could control me. That's not fixing anything. Outside, my car engine rumbled as I pulled away. The phone in my pocket buzzed again, this time from the case agent. I was due at headquarters within the hour. 4 federal agents stepped through the door, badges out, all business. Which one is Troy Ellison? Agent Harris asked, his voice flat and final. Troy didn't move. He stood like he was nailed to the floor, eyes darting to me, to Mom, to the front window, like he might make a break for it, but he didn't. Wait, hold on, this is a mistake, he said, hands half raised like they might just listen. They didn't. Agent Harris gave a nod. One agent stepped forward, pulled Troy's hands behind his back, and cuffed him. Troy Ellison, Harris said, reading from a small binder, you are under arrest for wire fraud, identity theft, real estate fraud, and the unlawful transfer of federally monitored property. Mom gasped. Please wait, he thought he was helping. Dad stood next to her, speechless, his arms crossed like he didn't know whether to speak or disappear. He's not a criminal, Mom added. He didn't mean to do anything wrong. One of the agents looked at her calmly. Intentions don't cancel out crimes, ma'am. Troy twisted toward me, face red, voice cracking. Jake, I was just trying to help. I looked him dead in the eye. You never asked if I needed help. You just assumed I couldn't handle things. He shook his head, lips twitching like he wanted to argue but couldn't find the words. The banner above the fireplace sagged at one corner, the tape letting go under the heat. Smart. Move. Troy looked pathetic now, like a cruel joke. I didn't want you to lose everything, he said, almost whispering. You took everything, I said. And you did it behind my back. The agents led him toward the door. He kept glancing back like he expected someone to step in and stop it. No one did. Mom sobbed into a paper napkin, her shoulders shaking. Dad didn't say a word, just watched as his oldest son got walked out of the house in cuffs. My cousins were pressed against the hallway wall like they didn't want to breathe too loud. My aunt clutched her purse like she was ready to bolt. When they stepped outside, I followed. The heat hit me in the face, but I didn't care. Troy was being loaded into the back of a black SUV. The door slammed shut behind him with a clean, final sound. Agent Harris turned toward me. We'll be in touch soon. You'll need to sign off on some recovery paperwork. I nodded. I'll be ready. They left without sirens, just tires crunching gravel and dust in the air. I turned back to the house and stepped inside. No one said anything. The banner had fully peeled off now, crumpled on the floor like trash. Cake sat uneaten, plates untouched. I walked over, picked up my phone, and sent one message. He's in custody. Let me know what you need next. Sent it to my contact at the bureau. Mom finally spoke, voice hoarse. How could this happen? I didn't answer her, because she already knew. She watched it happen. Years of enabling, defending, covering. Every warning sign brushed aside. Every excuse accepted. I picked up my bag, nodded once, and headed toward the door. You're not staying? Dad asked. Not tonight. He looked like he wanted to stop me, but he didn't. As I reached the porch, I heard Mom's voice again, barely above a whisper. He's still your brother. I paused at the doorframe. Yeah, he is. And that's why this hurts like hell. I didn't wait for a response. Just stepped outside, got in my car, and drove off. The house got smaller in my rearview mirror, and so did every excuse they ever gave him. The bureau didn't waste time. Within 2 weeks, I was sitting in a conference room while agents walked me through a full breakdown of what Troy had done. It was worse than I thought. He'd forged everything. Not just my signature on the sale documents, but fake default notices too. Made them look official using Google Images and a free editing app. He'd created a whole fake paper trail to convince the agent and the buyers that I was about to lose the house. Even printed out fake emails, complete with phony sender names, just to keep the illusion tight. He'd practiced my signature for weeks. They found pages of it in his room, just rows and rows of Jake Ellison over and over until it matched perfectly. The real estate agent who handled the deal, license revoked. The title company got slapped with federal sanctions for not verifying identification properly. The buyers, David and Melissa Parker, ended up getting reimbursed in full through federal restitution. Their lawyer sent me a long apology email, said they'd never seen anything like it. I believed him. Troy pled out. 4 years. At the sentencing, I sat behind Mom and Dad, arms crossed, face blank. Troy wore a suit he didn't own and stood in front of the judge like he was just there for traffic court. I couldn't accept that Jake passed me in life, he said, voice low but steady. I needed to believe I was still the older, smarter brother. That was his explanation. Not guilt, not regret, just ego. The judge gave him 4 years without blinking. Afterward, Mom cried in the parking lot. Dad leaned against the car, hands on his head like someone had taken a bat to his chest. I didn't say anything. I let them sit with it. A few weeks later, Dad came by the apartment I was renting temporarily. He sat on the edge of a folding chair like it was a confessional booth. We didn't see you clearly, he said. We believed what we wanted to believe. I didn't reply right away, just let the silence stretch until he had to sit in it. Eventually I nodded. I know. We didn't hug, we didn't cry, we just sat there. 6 months later, I moved back in. The house was officially mine again. Federal records cleared, keys returned, locks changed. I updated the security system, new codes, new cams, motion sensors everywhere. I even installed a steel-reinforced front door and had the title re-verified by a federal agent. I wasn't taking chances. The place still looked the same. Same driveway, same siding, same spot where I used to park after long days at the office. But walking in this time felt different. It was mine again. But more than that, it felt earned, not just bought, defended. My job back at the State Department offered me another contract, but I turned it down. Not because I didn't want it, but because I wanted to be here, in the house I fought for, the one everyone thought would crash and burn. I repainted the living room, fixed a loose step on the porch, replaced the curtains Troy had thrown out with some cheap discount ones I didn't care about, but they were mine. Mom and Dad came by once after I moved back, brought a plant, some peace offering. It sat by the kitchen window for a while before I moved it to the back porch. We talked more now, but it wasn't the same. They didn't look at me like I was the soft one anymore. And they definitely didn't bring up Troy like he was the golden child. That fantasy had collapsed in on itself. They'd seen what I'd built, and they finally saw who I really was. He showed up on a Wednesday. Parole officer sat in the car outside, engine running. Troy walked up the front steps like he wasn't sure if he should knock or just leave. I opened the door before he decided. 15 minutes, I said. He nodded and stepped in. His eyes went right to the corner of the living room, same spot where they cuffed him. He stood there for a few seconds, not touching anything. I really thought I was helping you, he said, voice low. You thought helping meant taking control, I replied. He turned toward me slowly. I couldn't handle the idea that you were more stable than me. That was your pride, I said, not my failure. He gave a short nod, like the words landed harder than he expected. I wrecked everything, for both of us. You wanted to be the hero, I told him. You became the problem. We didn't speak for a while after that. Just sat there in the quiet. He on the edge of the couch, me standing with my arms crossed, watching the clock. How'd you get this far without anyone seeing it? He asked finally. I looked him dead in the eye. People don't notice what they don't expect, you included. He looked down, hands in his lap, nothing left to say. After a minute, he stood, walked to the door on his own. No handshake, no apology, no dramatic goodbye. Just a tired man walking away from what he ruined. What would you have done if you were in my shoes when Troy showed up that day? Drop your answer in the comments. Make sure to like and subscribe if this one hit home.